Take a look on page 940 for a second. Take a look on 940. I want to go back. Yesterday we had left off, we were talking about the Jewish people compared to stars, and we're going to get back to that in a second. But I want to show you something I wanted to mention yesterday. I forgot to mention it. If you look on page 940, Pasuk Vav. So it says like this: Hashem Elokeinu diber eleinu b'chorev lemor. Hashem spoke to us at Chorev. 5 lines from the top. Rav lachem sheves b'har hazeh. Hashem spoke to us at Chorev. He said, "You've been on this mountain long enough. Pinu sulachem uvo har ha'amori v'kol shcheinav. Turn and go towards the mountain of the Amori and the neighbors. Ba'arova b'harav ha'shvelo v'negev v'chof hayam. Eretz haknani v'alavonon ad nahar godol nahar pras." So Hashem says, okay, I want you to leave Chorev, which is Har Sinai, and I want you to go traveling off. So I saw one of the Mefarshim says, he takes this completely out of context, but it's very much in context. Page 940, 5 lines from the top. It's very much in context because it has to do with Tisha B'Av. And I told you, say, a Parsha's Devorim often comes out on Tisha B'Av week or Tisha B'Av, right, boom, and of. And it says like this: Hashem Elokeinu diber eleinu b'chorev. Now the word chorev refers to Har Sinai, but it also is related to the Hebrew word churban. What's a churban? Destruction. So this is an allusion to the destruction of the Beis HaMikdash. Hashem said eleinu b'chorev lemor. Rav lochem sheves bahar hazeh. You've been on this mountain long enough. Which mountain? Which mountain? Mount Sinai. Harabah. Yeah, that's the plain meaning. Which mountain related to the Churban?
Gross.
Harabayis, the Temple Mount. You've been on this Temple Mount long enough. There's going to be destruction. Pinu sulachem. Go out. You're going off into exile. See, it's all there. It's all there, gentlemen. You're going off into exile. And you come to the Har HaAmori and all the neighbors, all the various nations. Ba'arova, b'harav, b'ashvelo, v'nego, v'chof hayam. Eretz haknani, v'alvona, ad nahar godol, nahar paras. How long are you going to be in exile for? Ad hanahar hagodol, nahar piras. That's how long you're going to be in exile for. Till the river, till the great river, nahar pras. Now the word pras comes from the Hebrew word. You know, how do you say in Hebrew to be fruitful and multiply? Pru or vu. Pras is the same root as the word pru or vu, be fruitful. That means there's one thing that is fruitful, that one thing that produces, one thing that constantly produces more and more, that's Torah. So you're going to go to exile until when? Ad ha-nahar hagodo. What's the river? What's Torah always compared to?
Water.
Water. Torah is compared to water. Ad ha-nahar hagodo, nahar pras. Till you eventually re-access the Torah, which is going to be reproductive. It's going to cause the reproduction of the Jewish people symbolically, and we're going to come back to that. So the entire section here is an allusion to, and again, one of those interesting coincidences of just in the Parsha that comes around Tisha B'Av time, you have the word Chorev, which you can't get much closer to Churban than that. You have the word Chorev and Churban, which comes together, which goes together, and it's alluded to over here. By the way, there was a woman in England. This I read about years ago. There was I was going through a period of severe allergies. Kept getting allergies. I kept getting an allergic reaction. Doctor tried this, tried that, this medication, that medication. Nothing was helping. Couldn't figure out what it was. I went to an allergist. I went to the top allergist in Yerushalayim. As usual, the guy even said to me, listen, when we don't know what it is, we just say it's stress. Yeah, we don't know what it is. It's stress. Getting stress-related allergic reactions, hives or whatever it is. That's what they always say. Okay, stress. That's what they always tell you. The first thing they do in all these books, all these experts, first thing is reduce stress. Oh, shkoyach. Thank you very much. Guy's unemployed. He's got bad asthma, and he's what he called his kids are drug addicted, and then he had to just reduce stress. Well, shkoyach. Gee, I'm glad I went to the expert for that. I'm not talking about me. I'm talking about in general. They always say reduce stress. They should reduce stress. He can't pay the bills, but he's supposed to somehow. How do you reduce stress? Well, do drugs. That'll reduce stress. Okay, and besides that. So I went to the doctor. So eventually one time the doctor's a good friend of mine. And I said to him once, What happens if somebody becomes allergic to water? He rolled his eyes like, like another Kaplan question. He goes, oh, well, he said to me, they're in trouble, okay? A couple of years later, I read about a woman in England. She gave birth. Her body went haywire. When we give birth, the body goes through trauma. From a halachic point of view, a woman who gives birth, she's considered sick for 30 days. She's a chola for 30 days. Body goes through trauma. In Yiddish, there's a word called a kimpeturin. You ever hear that word kimpeturin? Kimpeturin, I think it means she's sick. That was always the words that the women use when a woman gives birth, that she's called a kimpeturin. And I know the word well because my mother said that to me many times after my wife gave birth. She said, remember, she's a kimpeturin. You got to be very helpful a lot. Now they got a kimpeturin. So I learned what kimpeturin is. Okay, this woman gave birth and she developed an allergy to water. One of like 17 cases in medical history where somebody's allergic to water. She couldn't shower, she couldn't bathe, she couldn't do anything. Once a week she could dab water on her body. She couldn't, she couldn't touch her baby if the baby was moist. She couldn't touch the baby. And the obvious question is, so what does she drink? So I don't know why, I'm only telling you what it said in the article. And it said, the only thing she could drink is Diet RC. Which also made of water. It's a good kasha, and I think everybody has that kasha. Why dafka Diet RC? That's what I'm just telling you what it said in the article. And it could be that it just tells you that Diet RC has no water in it. It's just freshly squeezed chemical juice, right? So I'm not sure. I'm just telling you what it said in the thing. So the woman, then she got up, she said, they interviewed her, she said, my life is not a life. This is not a life. That's how we feel about Torah. Ein mayim ela Torah. Torah is water. And a person without Torah doesn't have life. Ein mayim ela Torah. True story. I thought it was one of the true story. It was true that I read it in a newspaper, whether you believe the newspaper or not, something else. But it's definitely true that I read it in the newspaper. Okay. Now let's go back to where we were on Pasuk Yud. So yesterday we were talking about Hashem Elokeichem. Hashem has increased you and you are like, sorry, bottom line over here. Hashem has increased you and you are abundant like the stars. So yesterday we were talking about what it means, why the Jewish people are compared to stars. So I saw once a shot that we spoke yesterday about the stars, the closer you get, the what do you call it, the bigger it gets, and the stars have, each star has an individual role. And that's meant to be teaching the Jewish people that we have an individual role that we spoke about yesterday. I saw a shot like this. Where did the stars, when were the stars created? If you remember the Medrash, at the time of creation, there were two great lights. Ha'ma'oros ha'gedolim, two great lights, the sun and the moon. And the moon came to HaKadosh Baruch Hu and said to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, you can't have two kings with one crown. So HaKadosh Baruch Hu said, you're right. L'chi u'ma'ati es atzmech. Go and reduce yourself. That's what Hashem said to the moon. I imagine the moon's reaction was like, that's not where I was going with this. That wasn't quite the idea here. And Hashem said, you're right, reduce yourself. So the moon was depressed. So Hashem said, in order to soothe the moon, Hashem created the stars. He says, here, you'll be in charge of all these stars. This is going to be your team. You'll be the captain, and you're in charge of all that. And that was done in order to soothe the feelings of the moon. So I saw one of the Forshim, he says, you know what that tells you about stars? Where did stars? The essence of stars is their purpose in life is to make others around them feel good and to make sure others around them don't feel bad. That's the purpose of the stars. They were created in order to bring relief to the moon. He says that's why the Jewish people are compared to stars. We're compared to Kochavei Shemayim, that our job in life is to make sure that those around us feel better for having any interaction with us. That's our job in life. Our job in life is to make sure that those around us feel good, not bad. And every time you have an interaction with somebody, a person should walk away and ask himself, in that interaction or that phone call or that conversation, the person that I was speaking to and the person I was involved with, did they walk away as a happier person or as a less happy person? And if you can't say they walked away as a happier person, that means I didn't do my job as a Jew.
Hashem also made the sun even bigger as well.
He did. It doesn't say that in the Medrash. It doesn't say he made the sun bigger. It says he made the moon smaller. It doesn't say that in the Medrash he made the sun bigger. our job as a Jew. So I heard once about a guy. There was some sort of there was a gathering in the house or something. Bunch of people were sitting in the house, and the host told his daughter, "Please bring out tea for all of the guests, but only half cups of tea. Make it only a half a cup for each person." Strange request, half cup of tea. So daughter goes into the kitchen. She comes out with a tray. Each tray has a half a cup of tea. She said, "Daddy, what if somebody said not enough? If they want more, I'll ask them if anybody wants more. We'll get them some more." Okay, so they drink the tea. So anybody want more? Yeah, I'll take some more. She goes back again. She keeps bringing out these half cups. Finally, she said to her father, why did you bring out half cups of tea? Never did that before. So father says, "Well, didn't you notice?" I noticed what? There was one old man who was a guest, and his hands were very shaky. He says, if you would have given him a full cup of tea, he would have spilled his tea, and it would have been embarrassing. And to give only him a half a cup of tea, so that would also be embarrassing. Everybody notices he's the only. So I gave everybody half a cup of tea. Anybody wants more, they can have more. That's a star. That's a star. The sensitivity to make sure that somebody doesn't feel bad, and only to pick people up. That's the job. That's the comparison to stars. Okay. And by the way, I heard about a kid. There was a Rabbi and a cheder, and a bunch of first graders. It was their first day of first grade. Remember that, guys, when you were in first grade for the first day? Yeah. So there are all these kids, and a bunch of little nervous little cheder kids are sitting. The Rebbe's there. And he notices one of the kids apparently was very, very nervous because he looks over by his desk and he sees a little puddle forming on the ground, right where the kid is. And the Rebbe knows that if the other kids find out that this kid just wet the floor, I mean, that's it for his school career. This kid he's finished. So what did the Rebbe do? He had a cup of water in his hand, and he started walking through the rows. Okay, boys, let's all say Modeh Ani Lefana. And oops, and he tripped and spilled it all over that kid. He spilled his water all over that kid. He said, "Oi, I'm sorry, I feel terrible. Go to the office right now and go call your mommy to come change your pants to save the kid." Isn't that unbelievable, isn't it? It's unbelievable. I have my son lives in Sfas. No, Shia, no, he doesn't have tchelis. No. I told you, he lives in Sfas. He's a Litvak. He's a Litvak. He's more of a Litvak. He makes me look Hasidish, right? I mean, he's not a Litvak. He's a racist, so he's he's off the charts. So he's a cheder Rebbe. He teaches sixth grade at cheder, and when he just started. This is his second year as a cheder Rebbe, and when he gives tests. So what he does is, because some kids in the class are always going to be more talented than other kids. Some kids are better, some kids are smarter. So what he does is every kid likes to get a good grade. What he does is, for a kid, let's say he got 60%. And he got 6 out of 10 right. So my son puts 100 at the top of the page. He says, you got 100% on those you answered correctly. Right? So everybody gets 100 or 90, whatever it is. That way the kid could go home and see, I got 100 on the test. Because why do you got to bash them? Why not? Kids are happy with it. I've had girls who've told me, I don't know if you've had this in your schools. I've had girls who've told me they've been in schools where a girl finishes a test, and girls get very, very about grades. Girls are like, if a girl gets a 98, she's like, why not a 99? What did I get right? They'll cry for a point. They'll jump off a roof for an extra. So there are teachers who will actually give a girl gets a 99. You probably heard of this in the school. A girl gets a 99 on her test, and she comes up to the teacher and says, what did I get wrong? So the teacher says, oh, nothing. So why did I get a 99? She said, only Hashem is perfect. I don't give hundreds. Only Hashem is 100% perfect. And I've heard this. This is not uncommon. So my reaction to that is, I would love to see this teacher on payday, and she opens up her paycheck, and it's missing $100. And she goes to the principal and says, I'm missing $100. He says, yes, I only paid 99% because only Hashem is perfect. I would love to see her reaction there. I'd love to see a reaction if her husband has supper and he says to her, wow, that was almost delicious. Because only Hashem is 100% delicious. I would love to say, oh yeah, well, have some almost tuna fish, right? Because that's what you're going to be eating now for a long time, buddy. And you'll almost make it to 120, right? Almost. What is that? What kind of business? What do you got? You could also put 101 on the test instead of a 99. Give the girl 101, say, ooh, only Hashem's perfect. My pen slips. Every time I want to write 100, it slips. I write 101. You understand? So that's the job. That's the comparison. That's a comparison to stars. Okay, let's go on. Take a look at Pasuk Yud Beis, an interesting insight into human nature. So Moshe Rabbeinu says, and look at this coincidence at the top of page 942, and you're going to hear it in the Torah reading this week. With the Torah reading, he's going to, the Balkori, it's going to sound like this. Hashem Elokei Avosechem Yosef Elechem Kachem Elef B'Virecheschem Kasher Diber Lachem Eicha Esol Levadi Torchachem U'Masachem V'Rivchem. He's going to slip for that one pasuk into the tune of Eicha, because that word begins with the word Eicha. There's Eicha for you. Megillah Eicha, which was written by Yirmiyahu Hanavi, the prophet Yirmiyahu, which we read on Tisha B'Av. Right? There it is. He's going to read this one pasuk, the tune of Eicha. What is Moshe Rabbeinu lamenting over here? Eicha esol levadi, how could I possibly bear torchachem u'masachem v'rivchem? Your, how does he translate? Your burdens, your quarrels, your contentiousness. I mean, Moshe Rabbeinu is the first rabbi in history. He's the first rabbi. You know what it is to be a congregational rabbi? And there's always somebody who's got it in for the rabbi. What does the rabbi do all day anyway? And there's always, right? There's always somebody. What does the rabbi do all day? And why didn't the rabbi call? You know, I was sick. I had a cold for 2 days. How come the rabbi didn't call? I bet if it was a rich guy in my community, he would have called him. There's always, you know, rabbi can't win his race. It's a very difficult thing. And Moshe Rabbeinu, he's got to bear the Jewish people by himself. He's a rabbi for a couple of million people. That's difficult. You got to go to every wedding and bar mitzvah. You know, that's not an easy thing. So Moshe Rabbeinu says, how can I bear it? Now, why don't you look at Rashi carefully? It's the right caliber Rashi, 4 lines from the top. Eicha es solevadi. Says Rashi, look at it's 6 lines from the top in the Rashi. Torchachem. What is torchachem? He translates as your burdens. What is the burden of being the rabbi of Jewish people? Now, how hard could it be? How hard could it be? Very. I heard once about. I heard these gangsters break into a house, and the woman says to the woman, you know, the woman senses, the wife and the husband, and the woman senses that one of the guys is Jewish. She goes, "Are you you happen to?" And they're being held up at gunpoint. And she says to the guy, "Do you happen to be Jewish?" He goes, "Yeah, I do. You want some coffee cake? Yeah, I wouldn't mind a piece." So she gives a piece of coffee. She goes, how come you became a gangster?" He said, "Because the other job that I had was the hardest job in the world. I couldn't take it." She said, "What was it?" He goes, "I was the president of the shul." so I heard, by the way, there was a guy with an immigration test. A Jew came from Europe and he was living in the United States and he had to finally get his immigration papers. So on the test, on the form, it says, what's the name of the president? So he writes down Yankel Schwartz. So they said, "Why Yankel?" Because that's the president of the shul. What president did they want? They want president of the shul. No, Yankel Schwartz. that was the president. So look at what Rashi says here. Torchachem milabed shehoyu Yisrael tarchanim. They were burdensome. How so? Haya echad mehem roe es baldino notzeach bedin. If one of the guys saw that the other guy was starting to emerge victorious in a din Torah, 2 guys go to court, din Torah, they're fighting over money. Omer, then the guy would say, Yeshli Eidim Levi, 1 second, I got witnesses. Yeshli Rayos Levi, I have all sorts of proofs. Mosif ani aleichem dayanim. Let's add some judges over here. So, you know, it never ending. Now, you see what Rashi says over here? Listen carefully. There's a famous story about a guy. He's a shochet, and the shochet, he shechts a cow, and he has a shaila on the lungs. you know, when they shech the animal, the first thing you got to do is inflate the lungs to make sure there are no puncture holes, nothing that renders the animal a treifa. So the guy shechs the cow. And I sees might be a problem. He comes to the Rav, and the Rav looks at it, he says, no good, it's a treifa. He goes, I know this is going to cost you. It's going to be 500 rubles. You're going to take a loss on it, but what can I tell you? The guy says, Rabbi, that's the halacha, I keep it. 500 rubles. 3 weeks later, this guy comes to Din Torah. And the Rav paskins in favor of his neighbor. They're arguing over 25 rubles. 25 rubles. And the Rav paskins against him. He paskins instead of paskin for, he paskins for Shimon. And this guy goes berserk. What? How can he be? What? I can't. He says, I understand. I trafed up your cow, cost you 500 rubles. You didn't say boo. Here, I paskin against you for 25 rubles and you blow a gasket. What happened? What's the difference? There's one added factor, which is what?
There was a winner.
There was another guy. Exactly correct. There's another guy. I'll sacrifice for Hashem, but not for him. He's going to be right and I'm wrong. That's what hurts. Take a look. Now look at how precise Rashi is. And he saw his co-litigant winning. Doesn't say he saw himself losing. If I was writing it, I would have said, well, the guy saw that he's about to lose money, so he starts yelling for witnesses and for court, for judges and everything else. It doesn't say that. It says he saw the other guys emerging victorious. All of a sudden, now he gets all to hits. That's human nature. Human nature is exactly what Israel said. Because there's another guy winning. My animal's treif. What could I do? Listen, I'm a frum Jew. But not when you're involved, I ain't. Not that frum. I'm frum, but not that frum. That's human nature. The fact that somebody else is going so can't somebody else is going to win. That's why the best thing in court is when they broker a compromise. Dayanim should try to broker a compromise. That way nobody leaves happy and nobody leaves upset. Everybody just leaves kind of like, well, at least you didn't win. That's good enough. Now I could go home and eat supper. The other way I couldn't take it. That's posing it. Somebody had a question. Nasano, you had a question?
Yeah, I was going to ask, it's kind of like irrelevant, but like with the cow thing, you could sell to a goy, right?
Yeah. You can, that's what they do. The Jewish slaughterhouses, where they find up to 60% of the animals are some slaughterhouses. There are more animals are treif than kosher. So that they sell to the other thing they sell to the non-Jewish slaughterhouses are the hindquarters. Because the hindquarters, they have two problems. Number one, there's the chalev, which is the forbidden fat. And the forbidden fat, there's a layer of fat, of forbidden fat. The forbidden fat in a kosher animal is a more severe transgression than eating pork. Forbidden fat in a kosher animal is chayiv kares, that incurs premature death. Whereas eating pork is only gets malchus. It's not kares. It's not chayiv kares. So there's a layer, and it requires a tremendous expertise to remove this layer of forbidden fat. And the other thing is they have to take out the gid hanosha, which is the what do you call it? The sciatic nerves, which run down the back, the hindquarter legs of the animal. So what they do, it's in most you could get there's a certain cut of meat. I think filet mignon. Where's filet mignon? I think filet mignon, if I'm not mistaken, it comes from the hindquarters, and it is accessible if you go to these butcher shops or whatever that does. But for most, they found that it is not cost efficient. They have to hire somebody in order to remove the gid hanosha and the chalev. The most efficient thing is to simply cut off the hindquarters and sell it to the non-kosher establishments. That's what about it. It is accessible. I'm pretty sure it's filet mignon. You can't get fully kosher filet mignon in most places unless you do what do you call it. So that's the human nature. Now take a look at Pasuk Yud Gimel. Havu lachem anoshim chachamim unevodim. Produce wise men, v'yeduim l'shiftechem, who are well known in your tribes. And the reason they're well known is because their behavior, they have to be people of impeccable character, and they have to be wonderful people And the only people who really know what their day-to-day behavior is are the actual tribesmen, people who live with them on a day-to-day basis. They can know, if you come in on a one-off for an interview so you can put on a show. But the people who really know you best are your family members. That's true, by the way. That's true. The acid test of behavior is how you behave in the home. Probably the most unbelievable statement that I've ever read anywhere in Shas is a Gemara in Megillah that says they asked one of the Amoraim, to what do you ascribe your long life? So among other things, he said, never did I, biyamai lo hikpareti besoch besi. I never got upset in my home. I got news for you. That's science fiction. Miyamai lo hikpareti. What, you didn't have teenage kids? You weren't married? You never got upset in your home? Your kid never busted his glasses? Bought your kid glasses? Daddy, my glasses broke. How'd they break? Well, I wanted to see how far they could bend. It's not as far as I thought. Oh. 1, 2, 10. What do you call it? Yeah, you're not. What do you call it? You never got upset. Your wife never got you upset. Your in-laws never got you upset. Your daughter never got you upset. Nobody ever left the lights on in the house. Nobody ever wasted money. Nobody was ever bothering you while you're trying to read. You never got upset. That's how I lived long. Miyamai lo hikpareti besoch besi. Could you imagine such? That's what the Gemara says. That's the acid test of a person. How you behave in your house. How do you behave? My daughter once, she's the one I told you when she was 7. I told her she's the one when she was about 7. I said to her, according to Allah, I could sell you if I want, right? So she was about 12 or 13. And I came home one day, and I come into the house, and I like to take off my shoes and put on my slippers. Now, she had a habit of taking my slippers. And I had mentioned to her on more than one occasion not to take my slippers. And I walk into the house. I don't think I was having such a marvelous day as it was. And I'm looking for my slippers, and I can't find them. And I said, Plonis, did you take my slippers? So she comes scampering out. She goes, yeah. So I started saying to her, I've told you not to take my slippers. And progressively, I went from 0 to 60. And at a certain point, she looked at me, she says, Daddy, you have to work on your midah of kas. Anger. So I immediately calmed down, and I said to her, I have a better idea. Instead of me working on my midah of kas, how about if you work on your midah of laziness and put away your slippers where you can find them, and then I won't have to get upset. You just don't understand. No, only she does. That's okay, I told you. I married her off. So but that's the test. The test. But I got her, by the way. I got her good ones. Because she also had a habit of looking through my things, which she shouldn't do. She go through my desk. She's a very curious, the curious cat. And so one day what I did was I took a note, I took a piece of paper, and I wrote my son's name on it. I just wrote his name on it, as a note for my son, and I put it on my desk. And he left it just kind of sitting there on my desk. And on the other side I wrote, Plonis, what are you doing looking at my papers? And so I came home, and as soon as I walked in, she goes, Daddy, you got me today. Today you got me. I looked at the paper. So that's okay. That's okay. Never got upset at home. Never got upset at home. Now look at what Rashi says here. So you're going to take these men. I'll put them at your head. Now look at this Rashi in Pasuk Yud Gimel. Rashi says, why does it say Anoshim? Rashi says it's the, it's about 14 lines from the top. Do you see where it says Anoshim? Yeah. If you find it, please show the person next to you. Rashi says, anoshim, men. V'chisala al daitcha noshim? You have a havamina that it would be women? Wait a minute, what do you have to tell me? Take men who are wise. What do you mean, take men? What, would you think a woman? We're talking about making judges over here. It would cross your mind to have women judges? What does that tell you about the Torah attitude? Women can't be judges. Women can't be witnesses. It's not even a havamina. Not even a havamina. It doesn't cross your mind. It's like saying a woman's going to marry a man. She's going to say, Harei atam b'kudash li. Not even a havamina. You can't marry a man. A man has to marry the woman. That's the way it works. Ma talmud lomer anoshim. So why does it mention men? What does it mean by anoshim? Tzadikim. Tzadikim means they're righteous. What's the Torah telling you over here? A woman has certain gifts. Women have a gift. They're gifted, very gifted. Women have an intuition. Women have a sense. Women have capabilities. Women have emotion. If I'd ask you, is it better to be logical or emotional? Which would you say? I don't know. If a 3-year-old falls and he scrapes his knee, he bangs his knee, and a mommy goes, come, I'll kiss your boo-boo. And the father's logical goes, come on, man up. You know that doesn't help. That's not the time to be logical. Logic is, I don't know, a lot of people, you don't know, to be logical. Who says logic is better than emotion? Sometimes you have to be emotional. Somebody's pouring out their heart. They says, oh boy, my car just got stolen. Man. So what are you supposed to say? Well, next time be responsible. Should have had insurance. That's not, who says you have to be logical? You're right, that's logical. But who said that's logical? Who says what? So you need both. You need emotion and you need logic. So women tend to be more emotional, men are more logical, but that's why you have to have both. Because you need a counter, you need a balance and a counterbalance. Yet they have an intuition. And they're capable of understanding things that men can't understand. They have a better, do you know that the Gemara says women have a better insight into people than men do? No shame, women have a better insight into guests than men do. How do you like that? The guest comes into the house, the husband says, oh, he's a great guy. What a great guy. The wife says, count the silverware. All right? She's got a better intake than he does. So there is no good or bad. When it comes to judging, what do you need? You need cold logic for judging. You can't be affected by emotion at all, number one. And number two, women are more easily pressured. Obviously, the more easily you can pressure a woman. A woman's got a little bit more, she's softer, she's not as tough as a man. There are exceptions in the world, right? Margaret Thatcher, right? The Iron Lady, they call her the Iron Lady. My idea of the Iron Lady is she irons the shirts, right? But she was called the Iron Lady, right? She wouldn't give in to the Irish, to the, what do you call it? To the, who was it? The Ireland, the guy, the hunger faster. They were hunger striking. She said, let them die. She's a tough lady. There are tough ladies in the world, but we don't make the exception. This is the rule. The Torah says a woman can't be a judge, a woman can't be a witness. And a woman doesn't learn Gemara. It has nothing to do with her intellectual capabilities. I know women who are so smart they can pack in the whole bunch of us. So what? But they have a certain approach and a certain mind, and they've done secular studies, by the way. Now, I don't remember which one is which. I think, if I'm not mistaken, men, in the brain, there are 2 lobes of the brain which have a certain distance between them. There's the one is for, I think, logic, and one is for emotion. By women, the physiological structure of their brain is that the 2 are closer together. By men, it's farther apart, so we can compartmentalize. Doesn't mean every man is intelligent and logical and isn't emotional, and it doesn't mean every woman can't be logical. But as a rule, we have to make a rule, and that's the rule the Torah says. Okay, now the next one. I want to get to one more point. Now take a look at Tezvav. Pasuk Tezvav. V'ekach es roshei shiftechem, 5 lines from the top. Anoshim chachamim v'yaduim, men who are wise, well-known. V'etein asam roshei malechem. I took these men to make them heads. Now this, remember, is where the Jewish people, Moshe Rabbeinu appoints judges. Sorei alofim, officials in charge of 1,000, v'sorei meos, sorei chamishi, v'sorei asoros. Some are in charge of 1,000, 100, 50 people, 10 people. Accountability. V'shotrim l'shiftechem, and enforcers. They're going to be enforcers. That means the Jewish people were divided up with accountability. You had supervisors. If somebody didn't show up to minyan, you don't just sleep in. The next day, your Sar Alofim, the supervisor comes over and says, Didn't notice you had chakras this morning. Everything okay? Yeah, I wasn't feeling well. All right, for Shlema. He goes to the second guy. What happened? What happened with chakras? Yeah, I was a bit hungover. Hungover? Hungover? Hey, what were you doing last night? Why were you hanging around in Machane Yehuda? What do you call? What about responsibility? There's accountability in life. And we need accountability because we're left to our own devices, so we're going to get ourselves into all sorts of trouble. Now take a look at Rashi over here. Rashi on Posuk Tes Vav, it's 3 lines from the bottom. That's not the Rashi I want. Top line left column. Roshim Aleichem, you're going to make them, how does he translate it in the art scroll? Roshim Aleichem. I point them as heads over you. Roshim Aleichem. Everybody see that on the left column of Rashi? Shetinhagu behem kavod. You have to treat them with honor. Now don't look for a second. What would you expect to find as an example of honor? Give me an example of honor. Standing up. What do you go? Giving on aliyah.
Giving money.
You nipped the head, didn't you? Take a look at Rashi. Shetinhagu behem kavod. What kind of kavod? Roshim b'mekach. They're the first one when it comes to buying merchandise, selling merchandise. Roshim b'mekach. First ones when it comes to selling. Roshim b'maso matan. The first ones in business. That means that if a man, a Talmid Chacham, comes to town, there's a halacha. A Talmid Chacham comes to town. Let's say we're living in a market society. A Talmid Chacham comes to town. He is given first rights to sell his merchandise. That's his privilege. And here, Moshe Rabbeinu is saying, you're going to make these heads above you. First honor is when it comes to finances, they get first shakes. How do you like that? Then he says, Nichnas mi beso acharon. He enters the shul last. Everybody has to stand up. The Yotzei Rishon, he goes out first. Good. That's all very nice. Stand up, sit down, whatever you want to do. But give him the money. That's the first. That's where the honor is. So my father, all of us, Shalom, used to say, I've mentioned this to you guys before. My father used to say, when it came to religion, my father was a very sharp man. And he was never impressed by external demonstrations of religious devotions. Shuckling didn't do it for him. That wasn't it. And talking faith didn't do it for him. What did it? He used to say, did you ever hear the expression, put your money where your mouth is? My father used to say, put your money where your religion is. Let's see you spend on it, then I know you're religious. Oh, and yeah, I shuckle a lot, but when it comes to buying tefillin, I'm not willing to spend the money. Let's see you spend some money on tefillin, then you're religious. Let's see you give up money in a business deal. I knew a guy who was, he was learning in Kolo, and as a sideline to make some extra money, he dabbled in real estate. So he had a building. He was trying to sell this building for a long time. Finally, somebody made him an offer on it. He says, okay, I'll sell you the building. He made a price with him. The next day, somebody else offered him an extra $40,000 for that building. He said, I'm sorry, I told this guy I'd sell it to him. And he's not bound halachically. But he said, I gave the guy my word. I told the guy to sell it to him. I can't break my word. My father was he said, that's a religious guy. Willing to walk away from 40 grand? That's a religious guy. That means you're religious. If you're willing to walk away the money, sometimes people, everything, all about it. Oh, all about it. Till it comes to money and you'll fight a cab driver for an extra 4 shekels. You give it up, walk away. What happened to you? What happened to you? That's a test. That's a test. Are you willing to give up a little bit of money? Do you know that the Gemara says that the bracha is in the home because of the wife? You know that, right? Aaron, you've heard that expression? The Gemara says the home, when a man has money, there's blessing in the home. It's in the merit of the wife. Now, do you believe it or you don't? Do you believe it or you don't believe it? You know what the test is? When your wife goes and spends a little bit of money that you didn't want her to spend. So what are you getting upset about? If you really believe it, and your Gemara says it, you believe what the Gemara says, so if not for her, you wouldn't have that money to lose anyway. If not for her, you'd be in prison. So what's the problem? You believe it or you don't believe it? There's the test for you. The Chafetz Chaim used to say that people in general, you should have a fund in your house, which he used to call the Sholem Bayis fund. You put away a little bit of money each day, Put away a little money each day. And that way when neighbors or there's a hassle with somebody in the shul or something and there's a money, be willing, this money is my throwaway money for the sake of shalom. I set aside a fund for the sake of shalom. This is especially true when you're living in a communal type situation, apartment type situation. Some of the neighbors want to paint the railings. I don't want to paint the railings. It's a waste of time. I got another $30 to go paint the railings. I'm happy with the railings the way they are. You know what? You have that little fund that you set aside money in. Take the money. Take the $30. Go give it to the neighbors. Give it the 30. It's shalom bias money. So a person understands that what do you call it? The kavod, to honor people. The money is the determining factor. One more point. Pasuk Yud Zayin. 6 lines from the bottom. Moshe Rabbeinu says, "Lo sakiru panim b'mishpat," which literally means don't recognize faces, which means don't play favorites in judgment. Kakoton kagodol tishbaon. You have to listen to the judgment, whether it's a case involving a small amount of money or a large amount of money. You got to listen to it. Lo saguru mipneish. Don't be intimidated. Ki amishpat leiloki. The judgment is Hashem's. Now pay attention carefully. V'hadavar asher yiksha mikem takrivun olay shmativ. Whatever is difficult for you, you bring to me and I'll listen to it. I'll help you out. Moshe Rabbeinu, when he appointed the judges, so he appointed judges to litigate various cases, and he said, "Okay, you judge the cases. Don't play favorites. Don't be intimidated. And if you have a halachic question that's too challenging for you, hadavar asher yaksha bikem takrivun elay shmativ. Bring it to me and I'll hear it. Then I'll get involved." Moshe Rabbeinu is the expert. So first you judge it. So I saw one of the first says like this. Did you ever hear the statement the Gemara Mako says, "Harbe lamadati be'rabosai." I learned a lot from my rabbis. Umechaverai, and from my colleagues I learned even more. Umitalmidai yoser mikol. From my disciples, from my students I learned the most. Did you ever hear that statement in the Gemara? I learned the most from my students.
Isn't that in Pirkei Avot as well?
Pirkei Avot does not say it. 1 second. No, doesn't say it in Pirkei Avot. 1 second. No, it's not in Yerushalmi either. What do you call it? It says umitalmidai yoser mikulam. It doesn't say. It says it in the Gemara in Makos. Now, I think it's in 2 places in Shas. But the Gemara says like this. What does that mean? I learned a lot from my rabbis, more from my colleagues, and from my students the most of all. Why is that? I can tell you several reasons. Number one, somebody who's teaching is forced to prepare. And when you prepare, so you have to invest energy and ideas pop into your head when you're preparing. Even more than that, your students know a lot of stuff. Students could mention something that you didn't think of. They point out something that you didn't think of. And the most of all, the students ask questions. And when students ask questions, there's a question, I didn't think of that question. The student asks a question, now I got to research it. And you got to, and therefore a person has, from the students, a person has mitalmidei yoser mikulam. That's where you learn the most. So one of the Forshim says that's what Moshe Rabbeinu was alluding to. Look at the pasuk. Ve'adavar asher yaksha mikem, whatever is difficult for you, takrivun elai, bring it close to me, ushmativ, and I'll hear it. Meaning I myself will grow, says Moshe Rabbeinu, as a result of the questions that you have that you yourself weren't able to handle. You bring it to me. That's going to help me myself grow. Because you're the Talmidim, you'll bring it to me, and then as a result of your questions, that's going to open up my mind to more Torah. That's what Moshe Rabbeinu is saying, and it's very true. And I can tell you, there's one other reason. I know this from personal experience. I know them all from personal experience. Students ask questions, and you got to prepare. And you also there are certain times, especially in Gemara, more than anything else, more than Gemara. I'm learning the Gemara. I'm preparing for Shir, and I'm thinking to myself, I have a problem in the Gemara. I have a problem. I have a question in the Gemara. And not only I have a question in the Gemara, I know that one of the guys, don't worry, Aaron, nobody heard. One of the guys is going to, one of the guys is going to ask me this question tomorrow. I know somebody in Shir is going to ask me this question. Not only that, I know which guy it is, and he's going to make me look bad in public. And I go to the Gemara, this has happened to me. I'm telling you, this has happened to me. I cannot tell you how many times this has happened. I come to Shir the next day, and we start learning the Gemara, and all of a sudden, boom, his hand goes up. And I know what he's going to ask, and I still don't have an answer. And he asks the question, and as he's asking the question, I don't have an answer. And he finishes asking the question, and doink, all of a sudden I have an answer. Where'd that come from? The answer is, you'd think it's the adrenaline of not wanting to look bad in public. I don't think it. I think it's a siyata d'shmaya. I think Hashem helps you out. You're willing to teach. Yeah, you're willing to teach and not even get paid for it. Just kidding. I wish I was kidding. You're willing to teach. You're willing to teach, and you took on the responsibility to teach. You know what? I'll have some mercy on you. I'll help you not to look bad this time. But it happens all the time. I don't know. The guy's asking, and as he's answering, finishes the question, all of a sudden, doink, all of a sudden I got an answer. Where the answer? I have no idea. That's called siyata d'shmaya. So that Kosher helps. And my colleagues have said the same thing. Anybody in teaching knows that. And I dread it. I know the guy. It's going to be him. I know it's going to be him. And as soon as I can't even go to sleep at night thinking, as soon as I start talking in shir, and we'd read the line of the Gemara, all of a sudden, boom, his hand goes up. Like, oh boy, okay, here it comes. Get ready. So I'm telling you, see it over and over. That's me, Talmidei Yosef Mikulam. Okay. All right, guys.